Welcome to Pain to Power. I'm your host, Marya Kazmi, also known as Brown Girl Interrupting, and this is the show where we explore the journeys that transform our struggles into our strengths. And I'm brought to you in association with the iRant Network. If you haven't done it yet, please make sure you subscribe, hit the bell, like, and please, as we are in this conversation, join the chat, share your thoughts, share your questions. This is all about growing and learning together. And as we're doing that, I want to just think about, right? Life always has a way of hitting us with challenges that often shake us to our core. And it's really hard to know, how do we get out of them? But part of having tools is to be able to draw on them in those moments when it's difficult. And I think about this quote of Bruce Lee's that says, "Do not pray for an easy life. Pray for the strength to endure a difficult one." And it really is that strength that we cultivate that creates our creativity, our resilience, and our connection. And it turns our pain into our power. So I am so excited today to welcome one of the artists who embodies this journey, Sterling Hopkins, whose medium is a sketch art and digital photography, and is inspiring us through his art and his story and sharing his experience and journey with us today. So welcome, Sterling.
Hello, hello. Thank you for having me so much.
It is lovely to have you here today, and it is quite a opportunity to hear a little bit more about your story. So, you are the owner of Pure Silver Company. Tell us just a little bit about who you are and what you do, just so we can introduce you to the audience.
Awesome, awesome. Again, thank you so much for having me. Sterling Hopkins, uh, retired Air Force veteran. I don't know why I go right to that. Uh, artist. I've been doing arts literally since I was 7 years old, just seeing different things or people and copying what I could see with pencil and paper, taking all the pens and pads in the house and drawing stuff all over them. So when my aunt or uncle, somebody's looking for something to write with, I'm sure I've used it all up trying to draw and sketch different little things around the house, and just really had a joy and a passion for that throughout life, and just fostered that self-taught journey of just copying and drawing things around me, buildings, people, cars, machines, animals. Started out much of which were not very good, but still just having that ability to see something and just copy what I saw through sketch in some form or in some form or medium on anything that I could possibly draw on. Yes, I was that kid.
I love that. I mean, that's a kid who has an eye, right? You see the world differently when you're a child like that, right? Everything is an
Yes.
art piece. Everything is something that's creative. You can add to, right? Which is a beautiful thing. And I see our chat is blowing up already. Welcome to all the folks. I see some of our ranters fam, no holdbacks. Welcome, Tasha. Hello to you. And welcome, Henry Snorton. You
Yeah.
are a classmate. Okay. I love
Yes.
it.
Yes. This one of my homeboys there.
I love
My
it. Well,
crew.
welcome, Henry. We're so glad you're here. And yes, thank you for your service. And thank you, Tasha said that as well. Thank you for your
Oh,
service,
thank you. Thank
Sterling.
you. Thank you.
Um, and I know that, you opened with it because it's part of your journey, right? Like it's something that's a part of you, which we're definitely going to get to. And I love it. Kendra says, my talented big bro, the artist of the fam. Well, welcome, Kendra. I
Yes.
love it. I love it when family comes to support. Kendra,
Oh,
that
yeah.
is awesome. And Big Bro is doing some great things, and we're going to be sharing the story, and we're excited to have so many people here. So welcome again. So Sterling, this show really is about this idea, and I think in conversation with you when we first met at a Jay
Yes.
Stewart show,
Yes. Yes.
we had the opportunity to chat, and it was clear that you have been through a journey of understanding yourself through the challenges that life has thrown at you and coming
Yes.
out from it. So, when you think about your own journey and you think about just your own learning, how do you describe or how would you describe the idea of turning pain into power?
Um, I'm sure I borrowed this from someone. I would just say a life masterclass.
Ooh.
Just on being the continually evolving or walking in the man that God has called me to be, and that has been a life journey. And as much of a struggle as it can be or has been at times, I just find the joy in learning how to become and how to be.
Mm. I love that. That's a beautiful thing. I ask that question to everyone who comes on the show, and I feel every time I take away a new evolution of what that means and how to take that with me. And Life Masterclass, it definitely is, because even before we got on this show, you gave me some masterclass moments of what that is, right? So I'm grateful for that, and that's a beautiful thing. And I mean, but it all started, right? You talked about being 7 years old and art being your inspiration, and how you came
Yes.
to it. But tell me a little bit about just your upbringing. So I know on your website, which everyone should go and check out. All the links are below. Make sure you do. We're going to see some images from it of all the art.
Awesome.
But
Awesome.
you talk about how your inspiration of many of the pieces that you have are come from your upbringing. Of you were born in
Det-
Detroit,
yep.
but
Detroit,
moved
Michigan.
to Chicago and Kentucky, two very different places. So tell me a
Yeah.
little bit about
Yeah.
just growing up and that experience and some of the differences of those worlds that you existed in.
Yes. Yes. Most definitely. Definitely. Now you got me getting vulnerable.
That's the
So
beauty of this space, hopefully, right?
yes. So as you stated, yeah, born in Detroit, Michigan. Unfortunately, my birth mother and father were having their own life struggles, their own life masterclass journeys, and other family members stepped in to take us in and to just help us out as children. So that took us on a journey through Chicago, Illinois, and ultimately landing by way of Louisville, Kentucky, into what is known as Hopkinsville, Kentucky, or as we call it Hoptown. Not too far from what some may be more familiar with, Fort Campbell, Kentucky, or Nashville, Tennessee. Is some of the landmarks that some people can familiarize themselves with when they say, "Where is Hopkinsville? Where is that
Right,
on the
right,
map?"
right.
Yeah, as we call Hoptown. So having parents going through their own life struggles took that on a took us on a journey through a number of households just to get to a stable place so we had a safe place to live. And I am so grateful for that journey because it connected me with family members who have been staples not only in our family lineage but also in the communities that they were a part of as well.
That's beautiful. That's
Yes.
beautiful.
Yeah.
And I again I appreciate how you frame that, in that oftentimes, and I think this is the pain to power journey, is oftentimes we can look
Hmm.
back at other people's decisions that impacted us
Yeah.
with a lot of frustration and anger, and to frame it as your parents' life masterclass too, right? Is that we're
Hmm.
all in this evolution. So where did art come into your story of kind of finding yourself in those spaces?
Oh, that is a great question. That was right around the time where we were just living in the high rise on the north side of Chicago with my aunts, one of my aunts and uncles, and I I wish I had a perfect start story. I just remember grabbing ink to paper and just kind of sketching and scribbling different things that I saw on TV. A channel that many from the Chicago Midwest area may be familiar with is the WGN, back then
Mm-hmm.
Channel 9, if you were in the city. So the different cartoons and things that I used to watch, I would try to sketch on paper. Um, and different things that I would see in magazines. So anything like robots or anything of that nature, superheroes, I would try to sketch. I would try nothing like what you see on the screen. Uh,
This is the evolution of the art,
yeah,
right?
I would try to sketch and just do my version of the image that I
Mm.
saw.
I love that. So, like, do you remember what it felt like to create those things for you?
Oh, it felt awesome. Even to this day, it feels awesome and amazing to where I look back at certain pieces and things and be like, I can't believe that that came from me. So
Mm.
it's just a space of just gratefulness and just disbelief at times as well.
I love that. That's beautiful. And I appreciate you sharing like how like there's no like big moment, but that's
Yeah.
I think how, discovery works, especially as young kids, and we've talked about this both as being parents, but it's that watching them
Yes.
learn about themselves
Yes.
is such a thing, and when we think back to our own experiences of learning about things, right?
Yes.
So art is a piece of your life, but I know that there's obviously this journey in our conversation goes beyond your art to who you are and what you've learned
Yes.
about yourself. So tell me a little bit more just about, you talked about being a proud veteran of the Air Force.
Yes.
um, how did the Air Force and like coming, well, first tell me how you got to the Air Force, what point of your life led you there, and just what it did for you.
Well, to get to that point, a lot of my what we'll call child rearing years were in Hopkinsville, Kentucky, and that's where my journey for art really took the next step and level of growth. Um, Having different art teachers and mentors and friends who were into art, or even the ones who wasn't really into art, but they saw my scribbles and things on paper and be like, "Oh, that is really nice, Sterling." And so
Mm.
that was very encouraging to get that feedback. Um, Classmates and
Mm.
friends were like, "Sterling, can you draw me this?" Or I'll never forget a number of folks asking me to draw different pieces of art on their jeans back in the day in the 90s, having artwork on your
Oh,
jeans
that's
with a few rips and
cool.
tears. Yeah,
Yeah,
back
yeah.
Belle Biv DeVoe and a lot of that music was what we would consider hot back then. I still do, but
Right,
uh,
right.
I would draw artwork and different things on people's clothing and draw people artwork. Or you say, "Hey, can you draw me this rose for my girlfriend?" I say, "Sure." So I sketch and do different things for people and join different type of art competitions in school, and did okay, did very well. I think I was more so noticed as the artist in high school, um, and that kind of took me into my journey to the Air Force because I actually wanted to go to art school in the Art Institute of Atlanta, of which I got accepted, and also got accepted into a couple of other schools, but just couldn't afford the tuition because what was afforded to me wasn't enough to cover my tuition cost. So I said, well, I have to figure something out. So I had the idea. So, well, let me at least go talk to the recruiter. I walked in and literally got ambushed at the door by the Marine Corps Army. It's like you step through the door and they're running towards you like fresh
Right.
meat, fresh meat. But Air Force guy just happened to be the closest to the door, and they're all looking at him like, ah, you
That's
got
he won out. Like fastest of the draw.
exactly. But I just wanted to go in and have a conversation. This recruiter was so good at what he did. I was signing paperwork before I walked out the door.
Oh, wow.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Because I knew I wanted to do something, and I understood that the other paths that I wanted to take at the time wouldn't work at this time. So here's what he sold me on: you can serve now, and they'll pay for your education later. I was like, got it. Let's do that.
That's it. That solves the problem. So, and
Yeah,
I see, welcome, C Dot, also more of our ranters fam. I love it.
awesome.
And
Hello,
I
hello.
see we got a question from No Holdbacks TV. How many years in the Air Force and what was your rank?
Oh, I did 24 years, retired as E7.
Mm, very nice. 24 years. Impressive.
Yeah.
Thank you again for that service. That's a long time. So now at the end of it, did you went to art school? and you were able to complete art school? What was the path? What
No,
happened
no,
since
I
from
didn't.
there?
I actually ended up going for another passion. I actually ended up going to school for business,
Mm.
which actually walked me right into my government career today, in which I do government accounting and government audit. So a lot of what I went to school for really feeds right into the work I do day to day now.
I love it. I love
Yeah,
it. That's awesome. And so it's interesting, right? Like you never know what path you're going to take. It
exactly.
life takes you where you're meant to go, not where you think you're going always, right?
Oh, most definitely.
And that's awesome. And I mean, and we didn't talk about this, but I know that like this has come up in our conversations, is that
Hmm.
the Air Force also gave you a lot of tools as a man, particularly, right, in your
Yes.
understanding. So let's talk a little bit about that, because the show is Pain to Power, right? It is about
Yeah.
that like real emotional journey. So we're going to go vulnerable. And
Okay. Okay.
um but but really, like, what do you think you learned about yourself that maybe even was bringing to light some of the things that you may not have realized, or did realize about your upbringing, that started to come through in being in that environment in the Air Force itself?
Great question. Great question. I know for me, I got to basic training, and a lot of the dress right dress, the orders, the clean living area, clothing being clean, ironed, and fresh pressed. I was like, I feel like I'm at home because my and everybody's online that knows my aunt that raised me. It's like, oh yes, that. So basic training was not very. I mean, other than the PT I had to adjust to. Um, but for those who knew my aunt and knew how we grew up, it was dress right dress. She didn't play, so basic wasn't very hard for me. But I will allude to this. Um, Having some amazing and beautiful black women that raised me, and some awesome uncles as well who were in and out and having their own life journey and struggles. Um, it was the lack of emotional equipping where I suffered from the most. Because throughout various relationships and friendships, where I realized I struggled the most later in life is emotional intelligence.
Mm.
And that was my most vulnerable and weakest area, which I had to grow. Many would say whether it's called reading the room or whatever nuanced labeling we call it. Basic bottom line, emotional intelligence is where I had to grow the most in facing different challenges as a young black man in the Air Force,
Hmm.
trying to make my way through the ranks and being faced with different challenges throughout. That emotional intelligence was the key because I had to find a space to always be okay, even when I wasn't okay.
Mm. Thank you for sharing that,
Yeah,
because I don't think we talk enough about emotional intelligence. I mean,
yeah,
definitely back then, for certain, right? Because what are you
yeah,
talking about? That we're going to the 90s here, right? Like 90s, 80s, 90s,
yes,
right? Time
yeah.
frame, and emotional intelligence wasn't even on the radar of anybody,
No,
right?
no,
So
not at all.
that's
Not at
a
all.
that's an interesting thing, though. Like, did you state it as emotional intelligence, do you think, or like how did you look at it, and what was it that you were like telling yourself, I got to figure this out for myself?
Well, no, I didn't have even the vocabulary to say that back coming up in my, of course, younger years. It was just realizing that I was hitting a lot of the same walls and repeating the same um, poor behavior, and as I progressed through life and even growing in my own walk, my own faith walk, I even had to learn how to truly integrate my faith walk and what God's word is saying, and integrate that into what I say is real time. What does that look like in
Mm.
real time in my life? How does that actually play out? and bringing all of those strings and things together into one synonymous walk in my outlook for my life has been my ongoing journey. Um, so, just to reiterate, um, seeing seeing just various patterns and things that I would repeat.
Hmm.
I would find myself consistently um, mournful afterwards, like, why did I make that decision? Or why did I go down this particular road? Or why did I take this specific action? And realizing, rather than consistently being mournful, why don't I take and apply the teaching, the wisdom, the word, and the mentoring that I've been receiving and actually apply it in that particular moment so I don't have to be mournful after the decision was made.
Mm. So you, it sounded like, so you had self-reflection within you. Have you had you
Yes.
always had this level of self-reflection, or do you think like it started at this point?
Oh, absolutely not. There's been a journey of growth.
This one. I love that, but that and that's that's an element of emotional
Mm,
intelligence, right? Like
yeah.
there's the reading the room piece, but there's also the knowing myself, right? That
Yes.
self-reflection. So how did you do that integration then? What was that part like for you?
And this is the beauty of it, and this is the the joy of checking your circle.
Mm.
Check who's in your court, because this is the beauty of having a journey of being challenged by peers and mentors who will provoke you to elevate who you are. And if you don't have that, that's when you have to really check your circle. Because I was in certain circles, young military guy in certain circles, and we're doing the same things over and over, and accomplishing the same things. And I'm looking at others around me progress, but I'm not quite progressing the way I would have preferred. So just by default, I began to change my circles. And as I did that, things began to change for me.
Mm. That's really important though, right?
Yeah.
Because who we
Mhm.
surround ourselves with can
Yes.
motivate us to change or can keep us perpetuating those patterns.
Yes.
Um, and we can hope and want so much for change, but if we're not making that environmental shift, it
Yes.
certainly impacts things, right?
So
Can you
true.
tell me like a little bit more like specifically for you? Because I think so, and not just for you to be vulnerable, but your
Uh-huh.
vulnerability is helping our audience, right? The goal
Hmm.
of this is to give tools to others. And I think it's so one, I applaud your honesty and vulnerability and bravery to share your story with us. So thank you. I
Yeah.
want to thank you for that because I don't think it's always easy. And particularly, I will be the first to say, I think it's very difficult for men to talk about these things with others openly. And to share those pieces, though, I do believe gives others the tools for them to start to think about it. So, are there certain like specific patterns of yourself that you knew you needed to address that you feel like you were able to tackle internally through these shifts, like the environmental shift, the thinking in itself? Like what did you start to notice about the way you approached life differently?
Oh, that is an even better question than earlier. Ooh, you had some good ones today. Um, I think a huge one for me, I would say the lava or the volcano concept that I had to deal with. And what I mean by it was, I've never been a quick to anger person, but when I am angry, it could be like an exploding volcano.
Mm.
And what I learned from that is it was okay for me to be angry and be open about what I'm angry and frustrated about. Use your words, communicate, but at the same time, channel that into something. Use
Mm.
that use that pain to your power. So whatever was paining me at the time that was triggering my anger, I should have been able to channel that into progress or power, but I didn't have the words or the emotional intelligence to do that, and that has been my journey. Because many may not see it unless they've been around me in those moments, and may not understand, well, why is he so angry, or why is he so frustrated about that specific thing. It was my lack of ability to take that anger and put it into clear words, so my audience could understand, and
Hmm.
put it into action, so I'm not back in that particular space again.
Mm, that's big. Like that, right? The communication, the amount of what you just said, right? Like I had to reflect
Mhm.
on it and think about, you had to think about yourself, but also then how do you communicate that to others? And I
Yes.
have to ask because and this is the work that I do, and it's the work of this show, I believe, is understanding our identity's role in healing. So as a Black
Right.
man in America, where did that balance of all of this come in for your own understanding of self and how you exist in the world in this journey with that?
Oh, that's beautiful. That is beautiful. Because for me, of the family that I that raised me, again, I keep going back to the beautiful, beautiful Black women that raised me, and that little small dot on the map, Hopkinsville, where I grew up. It was such foundational teachings that was that were given to me, that when I had to face a lot of these struggles that um, many of us as Black men face nowadays, or have forever faced, um, I had a tool set that I didn't even recognize that I have, as far as identity, how I see myself, who I am, and what I'm capable of, where I come from, what am I about, what does our family stand for. Those things were instilled in me in such a very young age, that when I had to face those challenges, I could stand against them pretty good. Obviously, as a young man, still had work to do to navigate those situations, but I had enough foundational tools to where I could stand in those moments and be okay, even when I wasn't okay.
Mm. Kudos to the strong women who raised you, right? Because that's
Yeah.
what that's, and I think that's such an awesome way to show how deep values get
Yeah.
ingrained in us even without us knowing, but we can always tap into them, right? That's part of the
Yes.
healing too. Like it's like tapping into that. I always talk about this idea of we're coming home to ourselves. So
Yes.
coming home to yourself was that knowing the power, and you said it, right, of what it is to be a Black man and the beauty of that, the tools
Yes.
that you already had, which often I don't think that the world sees and says.
Yes.
And
Yes.
that's a big counter to it.
Yes.
And so within that and in this journey of that, right, was there any stigma of being a Black man tapping into emotions and trying to figure all these pieces out about yourself? Like, did you feel any resistance in family and community around you, or was everyone accepting of your shifts and changes?
I wouldn't say everyone's accepting, but I wouldn't say anyone was overtly against it either. I think um, um, even now, and even some of my brothers that may be on the chat or in our circle, what we're doing a better job of now is just being openly and communicative with each other, when we're not good and things that we're walking through. Uh, just just as you stated, there has been a stigma, um, at least throughout the time that we've been here on this earth, um, about just men having emotions, men walking in emotional spaces and emotional things. Like what does that look like, um, in spaces when we're angry? How are we operating or acting out in our anger, or in our sadness during loss, or different things like that? How do we truly navigate those spaces, and are we in circles that allow us to fully just express those emotional spaces and not be disregarded or judged. And I know I keep going back to the circles that we're in. So I thank God for the circles that I have where I can open up and be in those emotional spaces and places. And I'm not literally got 24 hours before I'm discarded. And be
Yeah.
okay. Well, I guess I'll be looking for a new friend tomorrow. I don't have to deal with that, and I'm
Yeah.
grateful and thankful for that because now in that safe space, I can recognize, okay, I'm being a tool today, but you gave me space to heal. Now I can come back and correct that and talk and walk through it, and then now not only do I grow, but it helps my circle grow as well.
I love that. And I love that you do keep coming back to it because there's so much power. There's
Yes,
so much power in that, in the community of
yes,
like-minded, like experiences, to allow for the vulnerability, to allow for the openness without judgment, without like, and to hear each other. Because
yeah,
I imagine you sharing a lot of these things gives permission to others to
yeah,
share
true,
and process, because it's a constant learning and journey to
so
understand
true,
ourselves.
so true.
um, I appreciate that. That's awesome.
Thank you.
And I see some more comments in the chat. I want to honor our chat here. No Holdbacks TV said, "How was the transition from military to civilian world?" Yes, that's always a big
Oh,
one, right?
good question. When I was younger in the military, I would hear some of the old guys tell me, say, "Yeah, you'll know when it's time." Yeah, okay. It's like whatever. So sure enough, when it was getting close to that time, and I was like, "Yeah, it's about time for me to transition." And sure enough, went and requested and dropped my paperwork and officially retired in 2017. But as far as how the transition's been, it's been amazing because I was thinking about this recently. Just um, I don't know if I'm dating myself. so so in the '90s there was a show called $1 Million Man. The government's
Oh
got this
yeah, yeah.
enormous amount of money to put into this one person to be this essentially superhuman type person.
Right.
But I
Super
was just thinking
bionic.
about the correlation was I was thinking about just how much taxpayer dollars went into my Air Force training, Air Force medical, Air Force physical training, and all of those things that I benefited from. Uh, yes, of course I served, I did, but even in that service I was learning. But all of those tools I use today: interpersonal communication, leadership, information technology, written communication, speech, organizational management, organizational structures, financial management, accounting, defense accounting, everything that I've learned in my career that taxpayer dollars invested in, I use and benefit from today and try to leverage and empower others as well.
That's awesome. And I love that you're able to identify how that transition worked for you, right? Thanks for that
Yeah.
question, Tasha. I love it. And so, I mean, with all of this, right, you have also, in addition to getting into the civilian world and with, being in business and government contracting, right,
Mm-hmm.
you are an artist.
Yeah.
That's your passion, and that's what it's always been.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
you've got an amazing piece behind you, which is this part of
Yeah.
your current series?
Yes.
Because I'd love to elevate it. So please tell us about the current series, because it connects to all of what we've been talking about, that you're working on.
Yeah. So one of the key series I'm working on is in my artist journey. I've done all type of things that I love to draw and sketch. But what I recognized was I wasn't tapping into a core message or story that talks to who I am or where I come from. So this particular series I'm working on now is called People of Color. Just to play on words, I do a lot of my art on a solid black background. And this particular series is the hue range of one particular color. So this hue range is yellow. So I went from one spectrum of yellow all the way to the other spectrum of yellow, and I use all abstract shapes. So when you get close to the piece, you will see it's a consolidated compilation of circles, triangles, rectangles, and every shape and line you could possibly think of, to put together a geometric format of the art that you see behind you. So this particular one is Actress in Yellow. And the storyline behind this ties to um, just the foundation and teaching of the black women that raised me. So this is a piece of my one of my baby sisters, Kendra Holloway, as that she's that picture image of the legacy forward. So all of the wisdom, the teaching, and the gifts that have been passed through generations to us, she embodies everything that our family has stood for and invested in over the centuries, and also carrying that forward. So that's what this specific piece represents.
I love that. And it is a truly striking piece, like what you said, the black background itself. And I'm so glad you told me about the geometric shapes, because not being able to get up close to it, I
Oh yeah.
didn't realize that that's what it is. So, as you choose those colors, Kendra's hearts, yes, yes, it's lovely and amazing, talented brother. So and sharing your family story, right? So, do the hues themselves that you choose, because this one's the yellow hues, right?
Hmm.
Do they have meaning to you? Like, does that embody something about whom you're painting about?
Not as much, but I do try to tie um, a color to either the message behind the piece or the personality of the subject.
So tell me about yellow.
So this particular one, yellow is bright, sunlight, light, a path of light, a way forward, future.
Hmm. That's beautiful. And the positioning of her. I mean, so I feel like every piece has a story, right? So
Yeah,
I want to
yeah.
know the story. I want to know everything that you were
So
thinking
so
as you
this so
created this.
so this one was a number of years ago, because as we get busy in our adult life, we're rarely at home at the same time. So this particular year, we just happened to be home at the same time, and we decided to go to our downtown area just to walk around. And I was like, I just really I have a passion for brick. So the old school brick buildings that were built in the 60s, 70s, 80s, some of which have been repurposed, some not so much. Um, the alleyways in between the buildings and the pipe and the different structures, and the gas kind of pumping out. Oh, this I'll say steam. I don't want to say gas, scare anybody. And the steam is kind of coming out into the alleyway. We were walking through some of those areas, and we took a number. We essentially did like a small photo shoot, and that was off one of the pictures of her leaning against the brick building, um,
Hmm.
back home. It's a number of years ago. I'm Oh my God, 15 plus years ago.
But it stayed with you, right?
Yeah.
It
Yes.
stayed with you, and as you started this series, like that's the one you chose,
Yeah.
right? There's a moment there, and you just said all those things. And you've mentioned so much about the women that have inspired you and the strong
Yeah.
black women. Who was the first person that you captured in this series? The first woman, and what's her story of her connection to you and importance?
So the first one related in relation to my family was this piece. The inaugural piece I did was actually a good friend of mine that I did the first piece on that I just want to. I literally was exploring a style because
Mm.
also with the background and story, I think I really lacked an identity in the style of my pieces. So I was like, let me try a black background and let me just try something with. At first, I was just going to do a standard sketch and brushstroke type paint, and I said, well, let me try shapes and lines just to see where it goes. It took me over 6 months to do the piece. Um, as you see here, Trini and Blue, a beautiful friend from Trinidad. Uh,
That's awesome.
uh, so I began to play with different shapes and lines. And over 6 to 7 to 8 months, it just kind of began to flush and really come together.
Mm.
And once I was able to get through it and finish it, I still to this day just kind of sit back and look at it. And I just don't even believe where it came from. Because I just really, not only did I enjoy doing the piece, I just enjoy the finalized product of what came out of it. And is a beautiful representation of of the of the individual who I did here is a beautiful representation of who she is as an individual, her strong character, and her heart as well.
Mm, it's beautiful and it's
Yeah.
striking. It's striking. I mean, your use of the space and the tones of color, like it really is striking. And I know that we have the links below, but you have a gallery and people can
Yes.
purchase some of these pieces, correct?
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Thank you for that. So,
Yeah, I
everything on.
see flashes where you're like, I need a piece, right?
Oh
Yes,
yeah.
yes.
So everything on the site is the originals now. However, what I'm going to start a program for the most popular pieces. I'll do a limited series of prints for the most popular pieces that are getting the most attention.
I love it. I love it.
And
So,
I
and
and
you
I
talked about,
oh
oh,
sorry
sorry.
I want to have those available well before or by Black Friday.
Well, that's awesome, and you should because it sounds like you've got some people who are definitely going to be looking at buying,
Yes.
purchasing these pieces because these are statements for your house for certain.
Yeah.
And I love them. And you have to go check out the gallery. I know that I'm sure it's going to go up here in a moment and see all the amazing pieces.
Yes.
Um, is there another series that you've ever worked on that is also like just something that was powerful and important to you in your process of creating art?
Series wise, I'm also working on some other correlated pieces as well. I have another similar series I'm working on called African Butterfly. I stumbled upon a site that actually breaks down the species and subspecies of butterfly species that are inherent throughout the regions and countries of Africa. So I've done a few pieces. Um, uh, yep, I've done a few pieces that
Oh, that's
actually are
awesome.
abstract versions of the literal butterfly and the region that it's from. Now, this particular series here was a series of pieces I did for some shows that I did in the Maryland area. This
Hmm.
is African butterfly as well.
I love it. That's amazing. How does how does art feed you now in healing or in just your own just um how does it help you? How does it heal you?
It aligns to my purpose in storytelling because it's more so it's not the gift, it's the purpose behind the gift. So I have the unique ability to tell stories and to bring people together. And around those stories and bringing people together, encourage in those few moments that you have any one individual's attention, what are you going to speak into their life? And that's what art gives me the opportunity to do.
Mm, that's beautiful. It's a beautiful way to connect with people. Um, and I appreciate that journey of evolution, right? So it's not just for
Yes,
the art itself, and it's not for you, it's for the purpose of what
yes.
it is for others. Um, and in that, like, where are you now in you keep talking about your evolution and journey, and I have to say, and nobody heard this, but
Hmm.
you and I were talking before the show started, and you
Yes.
said something to me that I absolutely loved, and I'm going to go back to my notes, so forgive me.
Oh
I'm
no,
being
no,
totally transparent here,
that was
friends.
good.
But you said speak peace to the storm. Tell me a little bit about just, because for me that sat with me, but you were talking about your own space of where you are now, and how does that connect for you right now?
Yeah. So where I am right now, that the I would say the beautiful space of what's next. Because God has done a lot in my life and brought me to some amazing spaces and places and people. So, um, as I gain a greater understanding of my purpose and my calling, now it's a matter of, well, what's next? Um,
Mm.
so, walking through uh, what that looks like, how can I elevate into what I just talked about earlier? How can I elevate into other rooms and other spaces of speaking into the lives of people through my art, through business, through operating agreements? Who can I partner with and do business engagement with, not only within the contiguous US, but also international as well, in other areas, whether it be Ghana, Kenya, or other countries and opportunities that may open. That is the space where I'm at now, partnering with good friends of mine, Henry Snorton online as well. Um, One of the baddest business development guys that I know. So he's one of the guys that I kind of lean on to get to leverage this information of how to move into different spaces, how to do different types of partnerships and agreements. Now we obviously still have a lot of conversation to have, but he's one of my key sources that I like to leverage into that what's next. So as far as where am I at now, I'm in the what's next phase, because in the opportunities that I have to take and mentor youth, I realize while I'm in the space of mentoring,
Mm-hmm.
I also have to ensure that I'm continually moving myself.
Mm. That's very, very true. And what's next is a great question to be asking ourselves, right? And to keep pushing, which is a
Yes.
beautiful thing. So it has been such a pleasure talking to you today,
Oh,
Sterling.
thank
Like,
you.
and I love
Thank
that,
you.
again, your storytelling, your artistry is, I mean, striking and amazing. And I know that everybody's going to go and start looking at your gallery, and
Thank you.
can't
Thank
wait till
you.
Black Friday when things go on sale and we have some art in our homes. Please make sure that you're following Sterling and that you're following me as well.
Yes.
Before we leave today,
Hmm.
we talked a lot about your journey just as a man, and
Hmm.
particularly in figuring and healing yourself and finding your own guidance in this process. What would be a piece of advice you give to men out there listening in terms of starting that journey? Like, what does that look like? Or what could you say to others, and like how they might start to think about their own emotional intelligence journey?
I would say if we are not already, um, ask for help. Utilize whether it's employee options that are available to through your work or your business. Use the tools and different things that are available to you to get help, to ask for help, or have someone to talk to. And of course, as many of us know, you utilize your local church and the tools and the resources and things that they have available as well. And not just one thing, use all of the tools synonymously so they can all work together for your good, so you can be the best version of who you are. And again, I keep going back to your circle. Check your circle. Check who's on your left and check who's on your right. Are they empowering you, or are they kind of taking you back to things that you may not want to be a part of anymore? Um, those are the key things I would focus on. And most importantly, is always seek to gain and understand who you are in this space and time of being. Who are you really?
Mm.
Have that
Mm.
conversation with yourself.
And that is one that all of us need to do. And Dialogic and Friends says fire on all cylinders. Exactly. I love it. I love it. I love it. Who are you? It's a question that definitely needs to keep being asked. And again, I appreciate your vulnerability and sharing,
Yeah.
because oftentimes I think that it's not acceptable to talk about mental health as men, to talk about
Yes.
healing, to talk about even emotions. Let's be honest, right? like even just
Yes. Yes.
emotions, right?
Yes.
Um, so one, the fact that you did, I'm very grateful for that, and I know my audience is as well. And two, I appreciate that you're giving us these pieces to take away and thinking about how do we keep doing it,
Thank
and how do
you.
all of us keep doing it. So what's next, and where do we find you? What do we need to look for? What's coming up? Let us know before we finish up here today, so everyone can keep following you and keep an eye out for that next piece, that next thing.
Awesome, awesome. So what's next? I'll be going into the next three pieces. It'll be of my one that includes myself, my birth father, and my uncle who raised me. It'll be those three pieces back to back. We're going to get into some royalty, bloodlines, and street name green. So those will be the next few pieces I'll go into.
I love it. And other than your online gallery, are you showcasing any of these anywhere? Can we catch a show with your artwork?
Oh, good question. I don't have any shows lined up right now, but
Okay.
please stay tuned. That could change at any moment.
Well, I love it. So that's why you have to follow Sterling Hopkins on Instagram
Yes,
and
please. Yes,
check out
please.
his website. Make sure you subscribe to his email list so that you get all the updated information and you can find those amazing art pieces for your home. And please make sure to follow me. I am Brown Girl Interrupting. Thank you so much to all of you who tuned in or are watching our rebroadcast. Follow me here on YouTube. Hit the little like, subscribe to this channel. Make sure you leave a comment. What stood out to you? What did you appreciate about our conversation? Talk to us. We love a conversation.
Yes.
And follow me on Instagram, on TikTok, on Facebook, all under Brown Girl Interrupting. I am a writer. I create this show. And I am doing this work in all the different places that I can. So it is wonderful to have you all here to share this conversation, for Sterling to share his. Thank you so much for your evening and for your time and for your
Thank you.
service.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much.
And thank you to everyone for tuning in. And I don't know if you have a Roku TV. I don't know if you have a Roku TV, Sterling, but if you do,
I don't.
you don't. Okay, well, that's okay. That's okay. It For those who do, please go to your Roku TV and download the channel I Rant. On there, you will find so many of our network shows, as well as BGI TV, which features episodes of Pain to Power and many of the other guests that have been on here. And you'll probably see Sterling on there as well. So please make sure that you are following us. And thank you again for all your time. I'm here every Sunday at 8 o'clock Eastern Standard Time sharing stories of turning our struggles into our strengths. Thank you and good night.
Thank you.
Thanks again. My world has slowly crumbled around me countless times, and every time I rebuild with the pieces I've been given to birth something so transformational and beautiful that no one else knew might exist before it was shown to them. These moments tend to coincide within my romantic path. The universe has been telling me to focus on the revolution and not romance. It has over time given me the tools, resilience, and light to turn my pain into power. And only now do I see that the key to this always resided in the love and knowing I had in myself, not from the external sources of family or men. The message I have been avoiding might be that my time in this world I had existed in was not to receive love, but to put it out there for others to see, feel, and heal through. Revolution before romance moves pain into power.